Hey everybody, it's the end of the month again, which means it's time for another round of questions and answers. So we have our usual question from Nicholas this month. Nicholas writes, what part of the filmmaking process do you think gets most overlooked in analysis these days, e.g. cinematography, score, editing, costumes, set design, etc.? Alright, well that's another interesting question. I guess I would start off by saying one of the few good things about criticism in the internet age is, although there's the obvious downside that there are just so many voices out there that it's hard to find, a particular one in the whole crowd. The flip side of that is a good thing is, I would say even out of all those things you listed, there's none of them that are just completely overlooked. Like there's someone somewhere talking about one or all of those things. The only downside is you have to actually do the work to go find them properly. You're probably not going to just stumble upon them, randomly looking around the internet. But with all that being said, I do want to try and answer the question you asked me. And so if I had to pick just one, it would probably have to be editing. Editing is just one of those things that you could really just talk about for basically forever, it seems like. I mean, take Dan Olson's video over the editing of Suicide Squad on his channel, Folding Ideas. If you somehow listen to my stuff and don't know who he is, that's his channel. But that video is like, what? It's got to be over 40 minutes long, and it really just feels like the highlights. Like you could probably make a 3-hour video about the editing in Suicide Squad and still have stuff left over that you didn't get a chance to touch on. Because it just editing affects literally every second of the movie you're watching. And I think one of the biggest reasons why editing is one of those things that gets overlooked is because to really talk about it and to even kind of understand it, sometimes you need to have at least a little bit of experience, I think, with actually editing something. I can just speak personally from just the editing I have to do with my own videos, which is very different from editing a feature film. Even just that little bit of experience with it definitely has changed the way I look at editing for like films and television and such. And I mean, it certainly affected greatly how I view other YouTube videos. Those I definitely do feel like I have a deep understanding of how they're edited. So I can look at, someone else's video essay and immediately see just tons of things that I never would have even thought about before I actually started making videos myself. But even to go back to, making movies, especially when I was making videos back when I wasn't shooting my own stuff, my own talking to camera portions of the video, when I had to use, footage that was just directly from the movie or video game or whatever I was talking about, I had a set amount of footage I could work with. I can't go back and reshoot and make more footage of whatever movie I'm talking about. I just have whatever's in front of me. I need to try and find a way to use that to tell a story the same way you would if you were an editor. And so you have all of these limitations, but you also have to try and create a sense of pace and flow with each scene. And then you have to take that kind of bigger picture approach and make sure that each scene flows with each other and creates a overall pace and flow to the movie. And it's one of those things that once you actually start thinking about the little details you have to pay attention to every little aspect of the film, it kind of just makes your head explode. Which I guess gets to another big reason editing I think often gets overlooked, is because it's one of those things, much like all the other things you also mentioned in your question, editing is one of those things that you really only noticed when something goes wrong. So basically, if you're doing it right, no one's going to notice it at all, which, it obviously seems like a pretty good recipe to be overlooked by a lot of people, right? And as I'm sort of wrapping this answer up, I'm going to add in one other thing of my own that is an aspect to, film criticism that I don't think we see enough of, for some very good reasons. But that is film criticism that looks at films or a set of films more broadly within the context of other films that they came out around or that came out before them. And, I think we are, as a film criticism or just, criticism community in general, I think we're really good at looking at films within the context of a certain director's filmography. So, there's not a shortage of film criticism on the movies of, Martin Scorsese or David Fincher, Quentin Tarantino. But you don't see as often people taking certain movies and comparing them to completely different movies by different directors from different parts of the world, from different times. For the obvious reason of, I don't want to, try and make it sound like doing big, expansive criticism of, one director's entire filmography is easy per se, but it is easier in that it sort of comes with like a roadmap or a rubric of sorts. We have this director made, these 8 films, and so these are the 8 films we're going to watch, and these are the 8 films we're going to talk about. Versus if you want to take one of those films and compare it to another completely different film, or try and draw and form some sort of kind of more original connections that you might have not thought of, that takes a lot of time, and just having seen a lot of different movies in the first place to even have that kind of information in the back of your head to draw from in the first place. So I totally understand why this doesn't happen as much, but it's also why when it does happen, I think it really stands out. I think of one video in particular, like a Lindsay Ellis video from, I think it was still earlier this year, I think it was still in 2019, over War of the Worlds and Independence Day, and basically looking at big disaster movies pre and post 9/11. And that's a video that I don't know is really thought of as one of Lindsay's like big, prominent videos, but to me that's one of her best, one of my favorites, because it does that exact thing. It looks at 2, comparable movies. They're both disaster movies, but they're very different and come in very different times. And that's the kind of analysis that I don't think we get anywhere near enough of. And for the record, I'm part of the problem. I haven't made any videos like that yet. I have one video in the works that hopefully kind of starts to dip my toe into that area, but that's definitely another kind of type of criticism I would love to see more of, although, like I said, totally understand why we get so few of it these days. All right, so I think that's another month in the books. I will go ahead and throw up another Q&A post for you to post your questions in a couple of days once we get over to the new month, and then we get to do the whole thing over again. As usual, thank you all for the support. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.